Hello everyone, and welcome to this second video of this playlist about Tekla Structures. In this video, we will talk about the columns and the column settings. Last time we talked about this interface of Tekla Structures. We talked about different tools here and how we can navigate through it. If you haven't watched the previous video, please go and watch, because everything will be based on the first video. We talked about how we can create a new project, open a project, save a project, export, import, and so on. We talked about the properties. We talked about the viewport, how we can switch from the 3D to the plane view. If you haven't watched that video, please go and watch that video. We talked about the interface of the viewport, how we can rotate based on the center of rotation. We talked about how we can zoom in and zoom out, how we can edit these grid lines. So change the name, the letters, and so on, how to create another view, and so on. So if you haven't watched that video, please go and watch that video. Today, we're going to move on and talk about the columns. But before talking about the columns, I'm going to add one more thing about the grid lines that we have here, and I'm going to show you how you can copy these grid lines to a different location. Right? Without any further ado, we're going to go and select the grid line. Right? If I want to select only this grid line here, so I'm going to show you, if I click here, I'm selecting the whole grid. But if I only want to select one grid line, I'm going to have here to go here and activate the select grid line function. Now, the function that is activated is the select grid function. So once this is activated, you select the entire grid. If you activate the select grid line here and you go and select the third, then you can select this grid line. Let's go on, let's get back to the select grid function, and we will copy these grid lines to this location. So if you remember in the previous video, I said quickly that the copy function is located in edit. So we're going to go to edit and we'll see copy here. Hit the copy button and choose the base point. I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to show where I want it to be. Let's say I want it to be here. Here I have successfully copied these grid lines, and I can modify them, change the name here. It's not going to affect this one. Again, if you haven't watched the previous video, please go and watch. There we talked about editing grid lines. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these ones. Yes, delete, because I don't need them. I just wanted to show that. Let's move on and let's go to the column and column settings. So to create a column, you have to go to Still here, and you will see column. Or if you want a concrete column, you can also do it here. Let's go to Still and let's hit column. Once you go, you select, and the column is successfully created. I can rotate. Remember, the center of rotation is shown by this circle here. If I want to change it to the column, again, please, if you haven't watched the previous video, go and watch and see how we are changing the center of rotation. So here, I have it here. I can change it to this one, the top, and it will change. Here, we have successfully created the column. And let's go ahead and talk about the properties of the column. So if I double click on it, the property is shown here on the right side. Basically, let's start with the general settings. The general settings will show the first one, which is the name of the column. You can name it column number 1, column number 2, column number 3, and as you wish. You can name it as you wish. The second one is the profile. What profile do you have here? You can change the profile by typing the profile that you know here, but it needs to be really right, because if it's not right, Tekla will show an error. So you need to type it correctly so that you don't have any mistakes there. Or you can just go ahead here on the right side, hit the profile here, and you can select the profile. The eye profile, right? Here we have an eye profile, and you can select them. Or if you want another profile, you can also go here and select them here and change. Right? You can choose this one and so on. I'm just going to get back to this one. Let's just change this to 500 and hit the apply and OK. Remember, we said once this is yellow, it shows what has been changed. In our case, the general setting has been changed, and it's particularly the profile that was changed. Again, if you want to apply this here, to make it appear here, you're going to have to hit the modify button here. Once you hit modify, then it changes, and we can see it here in our project. Let's move on and talk about another thing here. Once you're here, if you hit the profile, you will not be able to change these values here. I'm clicking on it right now, but I'm not able to modify these values here. I'm not able to edit these values. To be able to edit values of these profile, you have to go to menu and catalogs, and then you go profile catalog. Let's go ahead and choose the same profile, iProfile, and HEA, and let's go to 500, and here I can successfully change this to 600, and in this case you can modify the hot roll profile that you want, or any other profile that you want. In my case, I'm not going to save this because I don't need this. I just wanted to show you. Update, nope, I don't want to update it, and nothing will change here. The material, the same rule as the profile rule. So if you hit here, you can select the material. You have steel, concrete, and timber there at the bottom. I'm going to close that. And also, if you want to change the material property, you have to go again here, catalog and material catalog. You choose the one that you want. Let's choose this one, and you can change these values here, right? Okay, I'm just going to close this one. Let's move on, and let's talk about the class here. Finish, we will talk about that a little bit later. The class here is basically the color. We have 15 colors here, starting from 0, and you have different colors. Change this to this, and the object will change. And the class 6 is basically color that is at 6 right here, right? Number 6. Great. Let's move on and let's talk about the next layer, which will be the numbering series. Basically, this is used for subsequent automatic tagging in Tekla structure. So the starting number, which is here, if you leave it here, you'll see start number. It displays from which number the numbering will occur. For example, if the prefix, which is here, right, let's say we didn't have any prefix, if it was empty, and the start was 1, then the numbers will be assigned as 1, 2, 3, as etc. If the prefix was, let's say, C1 here, right, the initial number is 1. Here, the start number is 1. Let's keep it 1. Then the numbering will be C1, 1. And then C1, 2, C1, 3, and so on. So this is just the subsequent automatic tagging in Tekla structures. Let's move on and let's talk about the position. Position here basically just shows how the object is placed in our Tekla structure 3D view. I'm going to go here, or even in the plane view, close this one, and let's find that column. Where was the column? Right here. This is our lovely column. Basically, let's change those values and you will see how they are changed. The vertical here refers to this vertical here axis, right? The y-axis here. If I change, right now it's middle. It's basically the middle of this column relative to the y-axis. So basically, it's here. If I put up, and modify, you will see that it will be up here. If I put down, then it will be down here. And I can also put an offset from the up on plane, and I'll have an offset there. Let's go back to 0, and let's go back to middle, modify. Rotation, we can rotate as well here. I'm not going to rotate now. Horizontal, it refers to this axis here, x-axis, right? How it's placed. Now it's middle as well, so it's in the middle, according to these, the middle of our flange, if I'm not mistaken. So if I go here, and I change this to left, and it's going to go to the left. If I go right, it's going to go to the right. And I can change as well the offset, 300, and it's going to move like that. Let's go back to the 3D view to explain the rest of the settings. Here, I'm going to talk about these settings, the top view and the bottom view. Let's start with the bottom view. The bottom view here is now at 0. So basically, I'm going to change this to that and rotate. You can see that there is nothing that goes under the grid lines. So basically the offset under the grid line is 0. If I change this to, let's say, minus 500, so basically under the 0, 0, 0, minus 500 in the z-axis, 500, enter, I'm going to have these offsets of minus 500 from the 0 of the z-axis. If I want to put 500, I'm going to have 500 from the 0 in relation to the z-axis. So that will be that for the bottom. And for the top, basically, it will be the height of our column. So we can change this to 7,000, right, millimeters, and it will become bigger. So you can see here, it's 7,000. We've changed it here. Deformation here, it's not really used, but we can talk about this one. For example, if you want to change this, let's say a rapid 180, or let's say 240 degrees, and you will see this beautiful view here, and so on. So this is how you can modify these settings with Tekla structures. I'm going to get back here. The IFC, we'll talk about that later when we talk about IFC. And the user-defined attributes is our settings that are related to the environments that you have. And we are not going to do this now. Now we have the finished environment. I'm just going to close this one and talk about that on its time. Another way to modify these things will be this object right here that appears every time we have an object. Once we click on it, we can modify. We have our column here again. We have our section profile here, which we can change, right? By typing what we want, we can change the class. We can also change the top or the bottom placement of our column. Another thing here is this kind of wheel circle. Basically, if you change here, you're changing the position of your, I'm going to go up so you can see that. Can I do that? Let's go. And you will see. Let's get back to 0 here so it's clear. So once you're here and you have this This one here, it's going to be really useful. Instead of going here and changing everything, you can change the location of your column also here. You can also use this green tag here, drag it, and you can move it around like that. So that's pretty useful also to be able to modify the columns. Great. So in this video, we have talked about how to create columns in Tekla Structures, how to move them, how to modify their settings. We understand the naming, where we can find the profile, the material, and we can change the placement, the position of the columns. We have talked about how we can copy the grid lines. We can also copy the columns by clicking on it and going to Edit, Copy, selecting the base point, and copying wherever we wish. Right? So this is how we do this. Another way to copy, we will talk about copying and editing in another video, but I can talk about it now. One way will be to hit the right button of your mouse, right? And you will have copy here. You can copy. If you want to go to edit, you can just do that also here. There you go. Another way, again, to copy will be the general one. Select Control-C and choose the point here and click on it. So actually, I shouldn't, should have chosen the base point first. Choose Control-C, base points, right? And then where do you want to copy it? Basically, you want to copy it there. There you go. And this is how the 3 ways you can copy your columns. We have our columns here. Let's choose another section for this one. We will go ahead and choose 400 for this one. Apply, OK, and modify. Change the class to this one, modify, and let's make this wrapping to 180. Bam, looks kind of fancy. And this is how you edit successfully your columns in Tekla Structure. I actually want to do this. Right, and let's change this one to green and so on. So here we have here. Another way to edit these columns, let's say, look at these columns. This column has HEA 500. This one is also HEA 500. But this one, we changed the value. We gave it HEA 400 and we gave it to 180 wrapping. If we want to copy the settings of this column to this column here, what we have to do, instead of just going here and choosing, we can just select this column here, choose this tag over here, copy the properties, which can be found here as well, copy the properties, and here it's going to select all the properties that you wanted to change, right? Obviously, you can unselect what you don't want to copy. In our case, we're not going to select the wrapping, and we will choose the column that will be designated to get the modification. Once I click on this one, this column will be modified by modify. There you go. And actually, the wrapping came here. We're going to do that here. There's probably a mistake. So copy. And actually, I should have unselected this one. So unselect, choose the column designated, modify, and everything is modified. Great. So now we know how to create columns in Tekla Structures. We know how to modify them, to copy them, move them around, and so on. In the next video, we will talk about beams. And please, if you've liked the video, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel to be notified when we are dropping the next video. Give us a comment, give us some feedback so we can improve as well. And if you have any questions, also write in the comments your questions, and we will answer to those questions. Again, as I said, I'm not alone here, so the next video, it might be somebody else, or it might be me. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.